Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavid Vishabhai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In our previous class, we had completed the chapter 16. And in today's class, let's study the summary of chapter.
I am a new student of your class.
Yeah, please come. So, chapter 16 is called as Devasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga, the yoga of distinction of divine and demoniac nature. Now, as I've already mentioned to you before in our classes, the flow. First of all, the Upanishad aphorism, Tattvamasi, that thou art, is what is being elaborated upon in the entire chapters of the Gita. The first 6 chapters elaborate on Tvam, the individual. The middle 6 elaborates on Tat, the world, Ishvara, Jagat, and Ishvara. And then the last 6 chapters talks about Asi, the connection between the two. How Jiva and Ishvara are essentially same. How the essence in Jiva and the Jagat is same. Now, in this chapter 13, 14 and 15, in fact, the first 6 chapters may, if you see, individual when it is being discussed. In the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga is emphasized, action. In the middle 6, when Tat is being discussed, Bhakti Yoga is emphasized in chapter 12. The last 6, the Jnanam is emphasized, but it is emphasized in the 13, 14 and 15 chapters. In fact, 15th chapter gives the highest knowledge, Purushottama Yoga, the Yoga of Supreme Being. Now, 16 talks about divine and demoniac, where it talks about the qualities which are, enhanced in us, because we also have some divine qualities. Nobody is devoid of any divine qualities. We have divine qualities. But you have to put in effort and enhance them more and more and try to reduce the demoniac qualities. If we do that, it is helpful to gain the knowledge. And the knowledge can be gained only if you have Shraddha, the real faith, not the superficial faith. That he talks about in the 17th chapter. Then with these qualities and Shraddha, when you gain this knowledge, you can attain moksha. That is spoken in the 18th chapter. Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. 17 is Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the distinction of 3 types of Shraddhas, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. And then in the 18th chapter, he talks about Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. Yoga of liberation through renunciation. So in the 3rd portion, starting from 13 till 18, it is a Jnanam that is emphasized. So the emphasis in the last 6 chapters is jnanam. Karma, bhakti, jnanam. We have to follow all the three according to each one's proportion. We are made up of the physical body, mind, and intellect. And we have to use these three equipments to get back to the self. So the whole spiritual journey is to reduce the vasanas and get back to the self. And that we have to do through the body, through the mind, through the intellect. Through the body, karma yoga; through the mind, bhakti yoga; through the intellect, jnana yoga. So ultimately, what will give us moksham is only knowledge. Because the reason is attachment, which comes from ignorance of the true nature. This basic we must remember all the time. Due to the attachment we suffer. That's why even Swamiji wrote the book Holocaust of Attachment. In that book he says the deadliest virus is attachment. So the reason for all our suffering is attachment. And that suffering will go only if we get rid of attachment. And we can get rid of attachment only if we get rid of the ignorance of our true nature. Ignorance can be overcome only through knowledge of the true nature, knowledge of the self. For this knowledge to be received and established in us, we need to develop divine qualities. Everybody is made up of sattva, rajas, and tamas. Our mind, each one's mind, has these three temperaments, qualities: sattva, rajas, tamas. Sattva being balanced, composed, serene, and rajas being restless, heedless, not heedless, restless, agitated, greedy, result-oriented mind. And tamas is heedless, ignorant, deluded, indolent, that kind of mind. And we have all these three. Sattva is divine, tamas and rajas demoniac. Left to ourselves, our mind will flow in the direction of rajas and tamas. We need to strengthen the intellect and then pull ourselves beyond the power of senses and mind and turn towards the self and rise higher and higher, increasing sattva. So, as we go towards the self, dropping the rajas and tamas, increasing sattva, we evolve. In the other direction, we devolve. So therefore, it becomes extremely important to work upon our mind as we gain the knowledge. In fact, we work upon the mind before. We studied in Tattva Bodha how much importance Adi Shankara, the Jagat Guru, had given for the qualification of a student. Because only a qualified student can receive and establish himself or herself in that knowledge. So it's extremely important to focus on that. Therefore, this chapter becomes important. Yoga of divine and demoniac qualities. So this chapter is a small chapter. It has only 24 shlokas. And it is divided into 4 topics by Swamiji through his research. And all this is for our good only, to get the thought flow. It's extremely important. See, the book that he wrote, Vedanta Treatise, the Eternities, he has given the thought flow from the fundamental to the highest philosophy. In a nice way is written. But Bhagavad Gita is not written by any particular author. It was a conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Arjuna asks question and Sri Krishna answers. So it's extremely important for us to understand the thought flow. It's not somebody sat down and wrote so that they could have presented in a proper thought flow, There is a thought flow here, but we need to be explained. You can't just like that, otherwise we will go here and there. Huh? No, what they spoke about was written down. Here, Surbi is asking, wasn't it written by Ganeshji? And I say written. He transcribed it. That is not writing. He's not the author. Later on, it was codified by Sage Vyasa also. You can't say Sage Vyasa is the, author of Bhagavad Gita that way. So, Swamiji has divided this 24 slokas into 4 topics. The first topic is from verse 1 to 6. Qualities of the divine and the demoniac. 1 to 6. In this more he talks about divine and less of demoniac. And then from 7 to 15, he talks about the demoniac nature and conduct from verse 7 to 15. Then 16 to 21, he discusses how the demoniac sinks to the lowest hell. The demoniac sink to the lowest hell. 16 to 21. Then 22 to 24, the last 3 shlokas, he says the divine rise to the absolute goal, highest goal, self-realization. See, that's the maximum a human being can reach. And having been born as a human being, we all have the potential to get there. So, like I've discussed this many times, in this Janma, even to have come to this level where we are able to study about all these things, discuss about all these things, something we have done in our past. And while we are trying to pull ourselves to that level, it's a long way. We may fall many times. It doesn't matter. Because it's not an easy journey. Just think of Columbus. Think of Vasco da Gama. We only know a few names like this. So many people must have tried, isn't it? Many might have died also, or left the attempt in between and went back, or died in the process. We don't know them. We know 2-3 names who succeeded. Even though Columbus didn't come to India, even somewhere, something he was able to achieve. It's not easy, to even try. So, Swamiji says, when we fall, we should fall like a rubber ball, not like a lead plate, so that we stagnate there. It's a very tough thing, like Somerset Maugham's book title, Racer's Edge. Spiritual journey is walking on a racer's edge. It's not easy. So we have to develop these divine qualities in us. Already we have a lot of demoniac tendencies, right? So we have studied chapter 14 already, Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, where he explains about the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And in that chapter, he explains how when you control and handle rajas and tamas, sattva increases. The result of rajas is agitation. The result of tamas is ignorance. The result of good action is sattva, he says, in the 14th chapter. He doesn't say the result of sattva is this. The result of good action. What is that good action? Using the intellect, when you control your mind and not give in to tamas and rajas, then the sattva increases. And in the sattvic mind, the divinity reveals itself. You understand? In a clear pond, the reflection of the moon or the sun becomes clear. There is so much of green mantle covering the pond, you can't see the reflection, or you will see it dirty, not clear. So therefore, controlling the tamas and rajas, increase sattva, divine qualities, which will help in moving towards the self. Whereas the demoniac qualities are those that we increase by giving into our ego. Ego is this individuality. The body, mind, intellect complex. So, a person who's centered in the ego or closer to the ego is demoniac. The person who's far away from the ego, closer to the Atma, is divine. Out of ignorance of the true nature, Atma, the Shastras say, Guru say, that we are identified with this body, mind, intellect complex, this ego, which is limited, and as a result, we feel insecure. And we do all activities to deal with that insecurity. So we think by external conquests in the material world, at the body, mind, intellect level, we can provide that security to the insecure ego. And that way, it is impossible to provide that security. The only way we can find security is through knowledge. That's why this chapter, especially when it starts talking about the divine qualities, it starts with the word abhayam. We spent quite a few classes for it. Abhayam. Unless we gain this knowledge, or to the extent we gain this knowledge, to that extent this bhayam goes. Abhayam means fearlessness. Bhayam means fear. So the fear will not go, the insecurity will not go by just amassing material wealth, emotional relationships, intellectual informations, intelligence. It's insufficient. They cannot get rid of the insecurity. The one who is so much soaked in ignorance will only try in this way. They are the ones called as demoniac. So, when you begin to understand that, listen, we've tried this method, it's not going to work. Then when we try the other way, we become divine. So, he gives various qualities, 26 qualities he talks about. It's not that 26 is only 26 qualities are there. Divine qualities are too many. He mentions 26. In different contexts, he's mentioned 20 qualities of a jnani, 35 qualities of a bhakta. So basically all he wants to say is, when you get closer and closer to the self, these qualities naturally shines through you. And you also put in effort and try to improve upon these qualities so that it helps you to gain the knowledge. Both ways. So, in this, chapter, in this first 6 shlokas, it talks about divine qualities, and little bit it talks about demoniac qualities. And when he talks about the demoniac qualities, he first of all he says, ostentation, hypocrisy, arrogance, self-conceit, anger, all this is mentioned, so many qualities. See, the more you get closer and closer to the self, you are moving towards the center. You become more stable. When you are lurking in demoniac level, you are in the periphery. You're not stable. You're unstable. So, to compensate for it, you fall into falsitude. Self-conceit, all the time talking about yourself. Anyone coming in between you and your achievements or desires, expectations, you get angry. You put up a show. Inherently, but you show hypocrisy, arrogance, all this comes as you stay in the periphery. So, he first discusses, first of all, any improvement, any evolution is possible only when we understand where we are, only when we accept. Even when they talk about people who are addicted and all, the first stage, they are denying. They are not even going to come for de-addiction. The second stage, when a fellow accepts, it looks like, I can't be with it, without it. I need it. So once he understands that he is bound, then there is some hope. So, if we are so ignorant, we remain in this state and then we continue like this, there is no chance of us even trying. So obviously, so he says, the people who understand should put in effort and try to develop more and more divine qualities. So in many shlokas, even Bhagavad, he says, Satsangatve Nisangatve. Put in effort and be in the good company. It's not easy. See, till we reach a certain level, there is a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, verse, I think, 59 of chapter 2. I think 59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasamarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Vishaya means sense objects. The shloka is saying basically, sense objects turn away from an abstinent man. but not the rasa. Rasa means the flavor, not the rasa. Rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The rasa also goes only upon seeing the Supreme. So till we get back to the Supreme, we need good company at all levels. The power of Maya is too much. Not easy. So, again, this example also I've given in the class. If Bhagavad Gita itself says this, there are shlokas there in the Gita. It says, you want to conquer Maya, you take my support and conquer it. Because we are subservient to Maya. Ishvara is controlling and directing the Maya. So you have to be friend with Ishvara to be able to deal with Maya. Otherwise, it's not possible. So that's why all these practices, rituals, and many other practices are there in our system, in any system for that matter. Every religious philosophy. You just keep on talking philosophy, it won't work. Unless you are on some high level, you need the support system. So you put in effort and develop these divine qualities, be with divine people, help each other, and then gain the knowledge and slowly establish yourself in the higher. The divine quality helps you to gain the knowledge. Demoniac will sink you to the lowest hell of increasing vasanas, disturbed mind, incapable of enjoying the world. You understand? All that will happen when you increase the demoniac qualities. So from 7 to 15, it talks about the demoniac nature and conduct. Now, this demoniac nature and conduct, when you read that portion, first shloka itself, in the 7th shloka itself, he says, the demoniac fellows do not know what is pravritti, what is nivritti. Means they lack clarity about what to do, what not to do. What not to do, they think they should do. What to do, they think should not be done. They're confused. So he says they do not know pravritti and nivritti. And they do not have the internal purity at the mind level. The intellect level, no clarity. At the mind level, no purity. And at the physical level, no good conduct. Basically, they don't give in to dharma. Dharma means what? That which enhances individual's peace and harmony of everybody. Peace and harmony of everyone. Now, if you give in to your ego, you are going to disturb the dharma. You understand? So, the demoniac fellow is only thinking about himself. He is not thinking about the total. Obviously, he will not have good conduct, truth. And all the time given into acquisition and enjoyment. No higher goal. No nothing. Like I said in the beginning itself, they think they can make up for the inner lack through external conquest. It's impossible. So therefore, they are only having goal of acquisition, enjoyment. Nothing else. There is no other higher vision. They think happiness is in external contact. They have no idea that happiness is their real nature. So therefore, they go by their senses and the mind. They don't see the divinity, which is the source of this entire universe. They say there is no reality, nothing. There is no reality. This world is without any foundation. And the whole thing has come about because of lust. So their philosophy is that you are here to fulfill your desires. Indulge, enjoy. So therefore, their whole thinking is in this direction. There is no higher thought, no higher goal, no higher vision. And to achieve their ends, they can even go to the extent of destruction. Somebody comes in between, they can go to the extent of destroying. That's how their conduct is, he says. Abiding in insatiable desires, hypocrisy, and all these qualities, anger and all that. They have evil ideas. Evil ideas means, tamas and rajas. And also he says they work with impure resolve. See, once the mind takes over, that's why we have to be very careful with what thought we identify. Very deadly. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says in the 6th chapter, Arjuna is saying this actually. He talks about the mind. Chanchalam hi manakritva ramati balavad dridam. His mind is chanchalam, restless, pramati, turbulent, balavat, strong, dridam, obstinate. His restless mind, when it starts identifying with a particular thought, it starts turbulent, it starts becoming turbulent, stirring you up with agitation, and starts becoming more and more strong, going in the direction, till obstinately it sticks to it and gets it done. It's a danger. So these people, for their pleasure, their joy, they can go to any extent. They mean it's not somebody else. In your own mind, if you give in to demoniac quality, it can happen to you, it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody else. That's what it is. Macbeth identified with that thought. By killing Duncan, his benefactor, he could become the king. Poisoned his food, and then he says, Macbeth murdered sleep, murdered sleep. He murdered Duncan, the benefactor. But then he's saying murdered sleep, murdered sleep. Sleep is gone. Once you take that route, thereafter it's impossible to sleep. You will only be in agitation. So they are only, that's why he says, beset with immense care. Chinta, all the time, thoughts. See, you are destructively planning and scheming to acquire. So how can you sleep peacefully? You can't sleep peacefully, correct? In fact, in the third chapter, he says the tamasic fellow, he says he's a thief. Stena eva saha. The thief cannot have Aadhaar card because he'll be caught. There is no fixed address he can have. Today he'll sleep here, tomorrow he'll sleep somewhere else. But there also he cannot sleep. He's just lying down. He's so terrified that he will be caught, isn't it? So, all the time overpowered by thoughts, agitated, cannot be peaceful because of the destructive nature. One of the points we talk about when we talk about fear and fearlessness is this. If you have destructive nature, you cannot be without fear. Reasons for being afraid is destructive nature. If you are genuinely a giver, constructive nature, you cannot have any fear. Even when you are a giver also, that's why I said if you are a true giver, you understand that divinity is giving through you. There's this poem, Olive Tree, in that there's this line. He says, he who made it knew what it needed better than a man like. He who made it knew what it needed better than a man like me. So, once you have that kind of confidence, you will sleep peacefully. Otherwise, there will be fear. Will I wake up tomorrow morning? So, that's the thing. All the time agitated, and they go to death with agitation. Till death. Doesn't stop. And anybody who comes in between them and their acquisitions, finish them. That's the kind of way they live. The whole effort goes in amassing hordes of wealth. That's it. In other words, all their energy is wasted in converting into something material. They don't understand that material is actually immaterial. Material only matters in the material world. You understand? Like Swami Ramtirtha says, iron and gold is good for buying iron and gold. But truly speaking, it is immaterial. That knowledge they don't have. So therefore, their whole calculation is, today I've gained this, tomorrow I'll gain that. Whole day they are only thinking about their gaining. And then they say, I will give. They're not giving. In future, I'll give. And even if they do some sacrifices, yajna and all, it will also be for the namesake. And literally, namesake, he says that. And it is not as per the tradition or the injunctions of the scriptures. They want to be seen as dharmic. They're not really interested in being dharmic.
After such a close proximity, you're supposed to deal with such a person in close proximity. What do you think is the way to?
Here Surbhi is asking, when you encounter somebody in your life, how do you deal with them? You deal with them through dharma and intellect. Through the power of dharma within and the strength of intellect through which you deal with it, with such person. Your strength comes from dharma. And your clarity as a result because of the peace within. You think through and then take the actions. So this is in this portion, it talks about the demoniac nature and conduct from 7 to 50. He mentions all these things in this. I'm rich and well born. I will give, I will do this. I will rejoice. He says, I will rejoice, which means he's not rejoicing. He's not happy. He's only, others may think he's happy, but he is terribly agitated, totally agitated, disturbed. So this is the nature and conduct of the demoniac. Now when you have such nature and conduct, karma functions. See, you are punished or rewarded by your actions, not for your actions. Our own actions only. So like we say, Ravana killed himself. Rama was only an instrument. Rama is not a serial killer. This weekend we kill Ravana, next weekend whom shall we kill? He's not thinking like that. So, you are punished or rewarded by your actions, not for your actions. So therefore, he says, I hurl these evildoers, destructive people, demoniac people, to the lowest hell. From 16 to 21, the gist is, demonic people sink to the lowest hell. How do they sink to the lowest hell? Karma functions. So therefore, hell doesn't mean a place. It's state of mind. So, when a person is indulging, that desire increases. And the fact that he is indulging, he won't enjoy. In the sense, the mind is so craving that it is seldom in the present contact. So he is not really resisting the contact and enjoying. And number 3, the senses having been let loose to indulge, they lose the capacity to enjoy. So mind is increasing desires, not resisting the contact and enjoying. Senses losing the capacity to enjoy. So when the senses have lost the capacity and the mind is having desire, object in front of you, which help, because you can't enjoy.
Already difficult, even if you are net positive from the divine qualities to achieve more. For a person, and get more of the demonic qualities, how could they ever be brought back to the right path? Should there come divine intervention to help them at least every now and then be brought back?
Surbhi's question is, if a person is so demoniac, how that fellow can turn towards the divinity unless there is a divine interruption, interaction in that person's life. Divine interaction happens through knocks and shocks. The karma functions. It will make you think. You put your finger into fire, it burns. You think, Arey Baba, I should not put finger into fire. If you are so stupid and you keep on putting, 10th time at least you will say, Arey Baba, I should not put. So through the loss, it makes you think. Through knocks, you understand. Slowly you begin to understand. If you think you are the one who is running everything, given to your ego and do, slowly the knocks and shocks will teach you. Divinity is doing its best. Who wakes up, wakes up. That's it. So, he says the demoniac people sink to the lowest hell. How do they do this? They go through the three gates, he says. What are the three gates he talks about? Desire, greed, and anger. Desire, anger, and greed. Kama, Krodha, Lobha. They give it to these three. Lobha and Krodha are only modifications of desire. He's only mentioned two, but there are so many other Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya. All are there. But the first three, the desire is fulfilled, you crave for more and more, greed comes. When the desire is interrupted, you get angry. So he says triple is the gate. By giving into desire, then you go through the other two doors of greed and anger into the hell of mental state of agitation. So therefore, there is nothing wrong in the desire. We cannot give ourselves to desire. We have to direct the desire with our intellect, which is fortified by the scriptures. Therefore, if not, the desire then goes into all these modifications, greed and anger and all that. And a fellow who is greedy and angry and is more possessed by the desire, there is no awareness in that person. You go to any extent. So, therefore he says, the gate through which they pass into this hell is desire, greed, anger. So why is he mentioning this? This is the cause for your state of mind being agitated. Not some stars upstairs. You understand the clouds, the sky, that they are coming and making you go through hell. No. You do actions propelled by desires, greed and anger, you will be in the state of mind which is hell. You are digging your own grave, nobody else. That's what he's saying. So triple is the gate through which they get there. And then he says this is from 16 to 21. Then 22, 23, 24. The last, three shlokas. He says, therefore you have to liberate yourself from these clutches of the demoniac qualities and strengthen the divine qualities, and then take the support of the Shastra, scriptures, and help yourself to get back to the self. If not, you will be finished. So liberated from these three gates of darkness, O Kaunteya, man does good to himself, thence reaches the supreme goal. How? You have to first withdraw from tamas and rajas, and then give yourselves into scriptural study along with other disciplines, sadhana. So he says, he who casts aside scriptural ordinance and acts under the impulse of desire attains neither perfection, siddhi, meaning control over the mind, nor sukham, happiness, nor param gati, supreme goal, self-realization. For way to rise is to gain the knowledge, and for the knowledge to be gained, you need divine qualities. So he says, your only friend and the best friend is Shastra, because they teach and protect. Shastras are nothing but what? Wisdom of masters of the past. You don't have to blindly follow. You go through them, think about it, and then fortify your intellect, and then you evolve. No. So he says, therefore, the scripture is your authority in determining what is to be done, what is not to be done. Having known what is pronounced in scriptural ordinance, you should perform action here. Here means in the world. In other words, what he's saying is, learn and live. Don't just plunge into living and then think that I will learn over a period of time. It will be an expensive learning. Approach the Shastra, gain the wisdom. To convert the knowledge into wisdom, you need to have certain practices, disciplines, follow all that. Then the knowledge will convert itself into wisdom and help you to cross the ocean of samsara, from the shore of mortality to the shore of immortality. Therefore, he says, Shastram is Pramanam. Shastram Pramanam means he's not telling you keep the book with you 24/7. Spend time in trying to read, reflect, and recast your thinking. That is what is to happen, right? We have to read, reflect, and recast our thinking. Just going on reading, vomiting, without any change in thinking, nothing is going to change. Life will change when the thinking changes. There is nothing else. So, from the demoniac angle of thinking, we have to move to the divine angle of thinking. Just like how I am born in this world, all the other species, not just the humanity, all the other species also have their right to live. Isn't it? Not just that. In fact, all the other species are also helping me to live. Without them, I cannot live actually. I have mentioned this article I read in the newspaper once about how, dengue and we get because of the mosquitoes that grows in the stagnant fresh water. Isn't it? They say, no, like in the air coolers and all, you have the water just 2-3 days. If the mosquito comes and lays egg there and that mosquito bites you, then you will have dengue. So nowadays they say the rain and all that is acidic and you don't see tadpoles in the stagnant water on the ground. When we grew up, we saw a lot of tadpoles and then the frogs, they eat up all the eggs that is laid in the stagnant water. So that takes care of those mosquitoes. So you were saved from dengue. You don't understand how it works, how the elephants are so important for the forest, how the birds are so important for the forest, how all of us are actually equally important. No one is superior or inferior. But human beings, with this mind, we think we are somebody great. And we think this world is for us only. We are the cause of the destruction of this planet, not the animals. There is this CD, this video called Inconvenient Truth. The ex-vice president of America, I forget his name. He was behind that video, I think. He was vice president to Clinton, Bill Clinton. Forgetting his name. Anyway, so there are so many videos you can go and see in the Animal Planet, in the National Geography, and all these channels. They show how, we are just a small speck in the total. But we have this ego to believe that so therefore we must humble ourselves, and the Shastras will make us humble. And give in to dharma rather than dharma. So he says, therefore, scriptures. Your scriptures will give you that vision. It will make you see them when you really spend time with them. When you read, reflect, recast your thinking this way. You're thinking you are everything, being a human being. You, first of all, cannot live without other species. Forget species. John Milton says, they also serve who stand and wait. The hair inside your nose is helping the dust from going inside to the lungs. So there is the divine intelligence, if you want to call it that way, that is taking care of everything. Instead of understanding this, we give in to the ego, then we start digging our own grave. So therefore, he says, read the scripture, reflect then, and then recast your thinking and evolve. With that, this chapter concludes. This is the summary. So next week we will start chapter 17. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.